Well, drivers traveling near 40th Avenue West in Duluth will soon spot this new billboard. It features Duluth's fire chief speaking about the importance of health care for firefighters. It's just one side of how the Duluth Fire Department is supporting MnFIRE's mission. Northern News Now's Maggie Franzen is live outside of the Duluth Fire Station 1 with more about this campaign. Maggie.
Thank you, Laura. MnFIRE is a nonprofit organization that supports firefighters' mental and physical well-being across Minnesota. The group says they've delivered health and wellness training to 84% of fire departments statewide, and that impact has been felt here in Duluth. Every day, first responders run towards emergencies, and over time, that stress can take a real toll, both physically and mentally, and that's where MnFIRE comes in. Since 2016, the group has built out support programs, including a confidential peer support line, so firefighters can talk with someone who's been in their boots.
Fire world, we have our own language. I mean, it's a baseball player talks baseball, right? Firefighters talk firefighting.
Zach Yurchek, a Virginia, Minnesota lieutenant and MnFIRE course instructor, doesn't just teach firefighters about these resources, he's used them himself and says he's felt the impact firsthand.
Everything stacks up, right? We talk about that a lot. But yeah, I reached out and I started those conversations, and they went as long as I needed them to.
The peer support hotline is staffed by firefighters 24/7, and that's part of what makes it work. When the person on the other end truly understands what you're carrying. MnFIRE also offers in-person classes taught by fellow first responders.
It helped me understand that there's tools within myself that I have learned that I can sort through some of, say, these traumas.
Even now, some firefighters still hesitate to reach out, but in Duluth, leaders emphasize the message is simple. It's okay not to be okay. DFD Deputy Chief Rob Morehouse says he hopes this makes a difference for first responders statewide.
My hope is that statewide, we're creating an environment where we can get our firefighters made whole again and brought back to the center.
More information on MnFIRE and their resources can be found on our website. In Duluth, Maggie Franzen, Northern News Now.